Let's get into some tabletop news for the week. We've got a couple of news stories, which include the Dungeons and Dragons TV show gets the writer of John Wick. There is a Kickstarter for Our Shores by the RPGSEA. And finally, Mechwarrior Destiny, the actual play, has ended. And the funds have been raised for World Builder. It's been kind of a slow news week overall, but these are still really good topics worth talking about, and let's get into it. And remember, if you have news that you would like us to talk about, send it over to us on our Discord channel. You can find us over at shadowcasters.network/Discord. And honestly, like, if you want to promote yourself shamelessly as a news item, feel free. We're here for you. All right. Let's get to the news. So, Opti, why don't you go ahead and start? Tell us about Dungeons and Dragons, the TV show.
Okay, so we did a feature about the Dungeons and Dragons movie not too long ago, starring Chris Pine, but it looks like Paramount and Hasbro's film entertainment studio E1 is in the casting stages of a live-action Dungeons and Dragons. Sorry, I got that wrong. They're in the casting stages of the Dungeons and Dragons feature film, but Hasbro/E1 is also now laying the groundwork for a television series based on D&D. So there's this guy named Derek Kolstad. He's the creator and writer of some franchise that no one's ever heard of called John Wick. And he has been tapped to write and develop a pitch for a live action series based on the Dungeons and Dragons universe. Something that came as a sort of sideways to that in Hasbro's earnings call in October, the CEO said that sales of Dungeons and Dragons stuff has mushroomed 20% since 2019. So like that's what prompted apparently all of this sort of big push for D&D stuff to come more to the fore. Also, with this next piece, you can kind of see like the idea behind shared universes is obviously a hot thing right now. And with Marvel sort of doing their thing and DC doing their own thing, this shared universe is something that lots of different movie studios have been wanting to get in on. So in addition to the feature film that is in some form of production, actually due later out this year, apparently is what I heard, starring Chris Pine. But I also heard that Kolstad is not the only one who's making pitches for D&D series, plural series. Multiple writers developing various projects set in Dungeons and Dragons fantasy universe. So yeah, Kolstad, the guy who is behind the John Wick franchise, and he is also writing The Falcon and the Winter Soldier for Disney Plus. So all of that seems like incredible news. A Dungeons and Dragons cinematic universe sounds like the best possible thing that my 15-year-old self could have possibly imagined out of 2021 or whatever future time we're in. So let me ask, have you guys seen John Wick? I've never. So is this a good fit?
Oh yeah, no. First off, okay, I love John Wick. I watched all three multiple times. Is the guy a good fit? So yes. For action scenes, I mean, if their action scenes are very, very well choreographed and personal, right? Like there's obviously like big crazy stuff that happens, but I don't know. It's just, John Wick really set a standard for fight scenes moving forward in action cinema. So I absolutely recommend you watch John Wick, and I'm curious to see how they translate that, when you start adding in swords and bows and arrows and stuff that John Wick doesn't actually handle.
That part of it does sound really exciting to me, but I want to know, I think, is this guy a good fit? The answer to that question for me is probably then, taking that into account, the same answer to the question is, has this guy played a lot of D&D? Or role-playing games?
Yeah, it was pretty clear that the people who were behind the other Dungeons and Dragons movies clearly did not.
Yeah, or is he willing to play a shit ton of it in the process of doing the research and let the hobby and the art of role-playing games take higher forefront than his vision on the offset of what he thinks a D&D movie should be like, or a series. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I think directors who have a lot of success have a tendency to also have a lot of hubris, and it ends up being more about them than about the result. And I'm very much thinking of The Last Airbender, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, which is one of just a horrible adaptation, as well as the Hobbit trilogy by
Okay.
Peter Jackson, which went way off the rails.
If we're going to talk about Last Airbender real quick, Shyamalan
We're
was
not.
actually okay,
We're not gonna
but
talk about
we're
this.
not because it didn't exist. But Shyamalan was actually a huge fan of it, just like we were, and he watched it with his kids and everything, and he managed to ruin it, right? So
Hubris.
it's not necessarily.
That's what. It's not just being a fan. It's also leaving your hubris at the door. But let's move on from that. I'm curious. One of the things that, like, again, it was packed in there in the background, but other potential series. What other kind of shows could we possibly see in a D&D cinematic universe? So you have the D&D, the Dungeons and Dragons movie. You have the Dungeons and Dragons television show. What are the other shows? What are we thinking?
I mean,
I want to see a show that is about it's sort of a comedy sitcom about the struggles of a halfling family running an inn in Waterdeep.
Right? Could we see a Lords of Waterdeep television show? Right?
They
It's just
better.
it's pure Game of Thrones, like at the high level, right? It's all political intrigue. It's all like behind the scenes magic. It's torture. It's incest. It's all of those good things that we've come to expect from the creepiest DMs. But what else? Maybe a Ravenloft or
there has to be a
Dragonlance,
Ravenloft.
right? We could go anywhere with this.
Neverwinter,
I mean-
Baldur's Gate. I mean, you have so many different cities.
Say what
have
you
so many
will about
different characters.
Spelljammer, that would be really cool in a live action show.
And what's
It
going to
would.
be great about all of that is that they're going to be able at some point to planar travel, at which point then you get all the crossover stuff, and that's going to be
And I'm just going to throw it out there. If this goes well, like if this first, hey, we made a game or a movie based on an RPG, the minute that goes well, the minute any money is transferred, we're going to start seeing other people gobble up RPG products to start making other shows and movies about them. So here's
only hope.
the best possible world in which we get Shadowrun is a successful D&D launch.
But you got Bright, isn't that enough?
It clearly isn't.
In chat noted that Drizzt and Heroes of the Lance would probably be good direct adaptations because of their already existing popularity, and I think Daryl in chat makes a good point there. I think Drizzt is a really good one to adapt. He's like
Also,
important
Nina saying Eberron would be a blast, and dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
Simon with the Candlekeep Chronicles. Those who destroy knowledge with ink, fire, or sword are themselves destroyed. End quote. It would write itself. I think I agree.
I want a story about the wizard Bigby and like why he came up with all this weird ass, hand spells. like what? Who was this guy, and why is he so handsy? Yeah,
I want the sexual misadventures of Elminster.
And Daryl saying John Rogers is his pick for show running Shadowrun the series. I concur. I think at least he'd be on my short list.
Mm-hmm. All right,
I
so
want to see doing that.
next headline, let's move forward. Our Shores is a compilation from RPGSEA. It is on Kickstarter, and I think that you should check it out. RPGSEA is the hashtag for tabletop creators from Southeast Asia. They're kickstarting a collection of 3 RPGs. Game 1 is called Navathem's End, which is where you play agents of a tower trying to stop the apocalypse using elements of Powered by the Apocalypse and Forged in the Dark system. I saw concept art of like actual of colossi that are like actual mountains. So like in the inside of the mountain is like all of their intestinal tracts and stuff. So that's interesting. Game 2 is called Capitalities. It's a slice of life coming of age game about young adults living in the big city. Has more of a collaborative narrative storytelling system like Fiasco and Belonging Outside Belonging. And it gave me a very like, not quite like that kind of cafe visual novel style of game, like very chill and lo-fi. I'm really kind of digging that one. And game 3 is Maharlika, a techno-mystic sci-fi mecha RPG inspired by Filipino mythology. It's got options for both narrative and tactical play. The stretch goals include an additional digital zine of 9 smaller games, as well as additional content for each of the 3 main games. And as of this video, they are $23,000 into their $26,000 goal, so they're almost there. Go help them out. Look up Our Shores on Kickstarter. But speaking of mecha RPGs, Cliff, tell us about your news item that has something to do with mecha RPGs.
Yeah, this is just a quick small news item just announcing that the Mechwarrior Destiny actual play that we did live on our YouTube channel here, it concluded last week with episode 8, and it was a big epic battle, lots of fun, just really great BattleTech story, had a really fun time, really great chat interaction, and we were raising money for World Builders, basically just drawing attention to World Builders, which is a great charity that helps out other charities such as Heifer. And we encouraged people to donate to World Builders and then screenshot their donation to give plot points to the players in their battle that they could use for battlefield support options, which worked out really well. And also super chats within YouTube, we would then pass along to World Builders. So I totaled up the amount of all the videos with the super chats after YouTube has taken its cut, and the actual direct amount that we will be sending to World Builders from the super chats is $135.67. Most of that was raised on the last episode day, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And it was really neat to see people turn out for that. The total number, counting what people actually donated and plus the donations they reported, was $202, which is good because I had a special thing where if we didn't raise at least 200 by a certain point, something bad was going to happen to the player characters.
I love that.
And instead that did not happen.
Milestone murder. I love that.
Yep. Yep. I normally don't like building in like monetary incentives like affecting the game after trying them out in a few other occasions, different streams. But I think for like this big last battle where it was representing the support of the townspeople they were defending, and also playing in with the fundraiser at the end, push at the end of it, it was really neat to see, and it worked really well. So I'm looking forward to doing more fundraising live streams in the future. Not sure what it's going to be yet. Don't have something to announce, but we do have a bunch of episodes of that, a full campaign recorded out on YouTube. So check it out, Mechwarrior Destiny on the Shadowcasters Network YouTube channel. You're already here.
Good points. And yeah, it really does depend on the game. Some games just lend themselves better to donation and incentives like that. But I think it's really great that we're kind of taking this direction with our actual plays, where we get to just kind of like, you know, if we want to run a game and donate to charity and be able to include some interesting incentives for the story, as well as to like help that charity, I think that's awesome. So congratulations. All right, well, that is it for the news for the week. Again, if you have some news items you'd like us to talk about, then get over to our Discord server at shadowcasters.network/Discord. Drop them into our news suggestion channel.